Hello, my name is Jason, and this is Horizon Business, where we look at the stories that you should know about. First up is Tesla. Tesla recently came out with its quarter, and unfortunately, it didn't do so well. And it seems that Tesla's good luck may finally be beginning to run out. Now, originally, Tesla was able to just essentially come out with a quarter. It didn't matter if it was that great, didn't matter if it was that bad. The stock price would go higher because people really wanted to believe in the long-term story that Tesla was going to be the winner in the EV space, which is electric vehicles. Now, though, that appears to be less and less so. GM, Chrysler, Mercedes, all companies now that are in the auto manufacturing space are looking at how they can compete with Tesla, how they can now have best-in-class EV service. And Tesla is really struggling to keep up. And this is really most clear with their most recent car, the Model 3, which is unfortunately right now still having parts of it that are assembled by hand. And it doesn't necessarily seem to be a problem that's going to be fixed anytime soon. Now, supposedly they're going to have some better guidance on when this process is going to be fixed, but it's not really looking so good that this winning streak that Tesla's had really for the past couple of years is going to continue. Now, there is some excitement about their EV semi-truck, which they should be announcing in about 2 weeks, but even then, that may not be the bump that investors are looking for to get it back on its winning ways, and what we could do is be approaching peak Tesla. So we'll have to keep that under observation. Next up is Apple, which to me has really been a big shock because I think the iPhone has not honestly changed since iPhone 6. I myself still have an iPhone 5S. I was thinking that I would consider upgrading soon, but well, with what I see now, I don't necessarily see the need. I think that they are essentially reusing technology they probably developed 2 or 3 years ago. It's stuff that Android has had for a while, and that somehow it's now novel and new that Apple's producing it. I think the one advantage Apple does have is Steve Jobs did an amazing job of following the words of Simon Sinek, starting with why. People don't necessarily buy Apple products because of the products, they buy them because of what it says about them as people. Now, I think this is less so the case now under Tim Cook. I think that they really just focus on margins and process improvement, but for whatever reason, they've been able to maintain this undying loyalty of Apple fans who just, no matter what Apple produces, they want more of it. Whether this continues or not, I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't necessarily say you could bet against it at the moment. I think that one potential mistake they may have made is Tim Cook said that this upcoming quarter, Q4 for them, is going to be their best quarter ever. So if that doesn't come through, well, there could be some heads rolling or a little bit of a pullback there because you've now raised expectations that this is going to be the greatest. However, there doesn't really seem to be a strong headwind other than their manufacturing issue, which should be getting sorted out with the iPhone X now that the Apple senior leadership has done a lot to try to address this need, which was causing a little bit of investor concern. And the final sort of tech news came out actually late Friday, which is Broadcom Technologies may be buying another chip manufacturer named Qualcomm. And these are both huge manufacturers, multi-billion-dollar companies, and is sure to draw the investigation or the ire of antitrust regulators. Now, Broadcom has this ability because they are a Singaporean company to probably have easier access to capital than maybe a US company does, and they're also very successful. But it's going to be interesting because now what they're trying to do is remove their headquarters back to the US. I believe they used to be here in the US before, went offshore, now they want to come back so that what they can do is avoid a lot of the foreign company regulations that Congress is trying to put through, which is going to make it harder for foreign entities to buy companies here in the US. This is no real secret. It's trying to prevent Chinese ownership of more U.S. entities, and so this is seen as a strategy to try to avoid that. However, here, even in the U.S., the Justice Department and really this anti-collusion or establishment fervor could work against this deal because they're already investigating the AT&T and Time Warner merger because they're seen as something that's too big and there's a lack of competition, and could be creating a monopoly. And that says nothing about any of the other world markets. I mean, Europe is really cracking down on monopolies at the moment. They could run into problems in Asia as well. So I think the general consensus is this deal probably won't go through, but it is interesting to see that such a large business transaction could potentially happen. I believe they said it's the largest technology deal if it goes through, and it'd be about the I think, 8th largest business deal as well. So it'd be really interesting to follow. My prediction, at least at the start, is that it won't happen, but hey, it creates good news or something exciting for pundits like myself to debate. Moving away from tech, one of the other emerging trends at the moment is actually pet medication. Now, when you have a booming economy, people have more disposable income, and increasingly they're spending more of that disposable income on their pets. And one of the ways that has really shown up is in pet medication stocks. And two of the biggest ones are PetMeds.com and then Zoetis, which used to be a part of Pfizer before it was spun out. And these companies both reported really great quarters. They both raised guidance, and I think they're really seeing themselves as riding this wave of pet ownership, pet growth, pet medication to higher and higher levels. And there's really no reason to see that this wouldn't be the case. I think that if they can also too manage to do more stuff in China, where you're increasingly seeing pet ownership, and emerging markets, that's going to present a huge growth opportunity. But just hearing of the US, they're going to have lots of opportunities. Now, the one caveat though is if you're of the mindset that potentially there could be some sort of economic recession or there could be a pullback, I would imagine that pet care could be a way that people cut back. I mean, it's unfortunate, but people will let their pets go. People won't take care of their pets if they have less money. But if the economy does well, these pet companies generally do well as well. So, as with a lot of stuff, we'll have to see. And the final story for this week is something that I find really interesting, which is Papa John's coming out and first of all reporting a pretty abysmal quarter, but then placing the blame squarely on the NFL. And if you haven't really been following Papa John's, their founder is a huge Trump supporter, came out, really agree with the identity, and I think he feels that the NFL is no longer a representation of what Papa John's represents. And I'm of the opinion that Papa John's is a little bit behind the 8 ball with a lot of things, not to mention their main promoters are kind of retired has-been players. They don't necessarily have a lot of the technology space. You've seen Pizza Hut and Domino's really try to invest, and I've just never been a fan of the pizza. And it was funny watching CNBC this week, and they did an informal poll of their watchers and online, and pretty much I think it was about 70 to 80% of the people blamed consumption of less Papa John's on the pizza quality and not necessarily the NFL. And it really just seems like a cop-out that, yes, they have kind of a less social justice mindset with inside Papa John's versus what you could say in the NFL, but placing it on an entity like the NFL, I don't really see being the reason why people are not shopping or purchasing at Papa John's. So what could be the fallout of this is Papa John's may pull back from the NFL. It'll be interesting to see who steps in. There's certainly still money to be made in the NFL, but it's not the heyday that it probably was 5 to 10 years ago, and it's kind of a damaged good at the moment. And I don't know if I was the head of a major pizza company that I would want to necessarily attach myself to the brand or to the shield, so to speak. But, someone may, and so we'll have to see. And so that's really what happened this week. Be sure to tune back next week. We're going to hopefully get this up and running again. Make sure we keep you up to date on the business news you need to know. All right, until next time, thanks.